Hi, everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today, I have the pleasure to have Sunny Banerjee with me. Welcome, Sunny, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having me.
Great, it's my pleasure. Sunny is an expert in financial fraud detection and prevention. I think you guys are gonna learn a lot from this episode. So, what led you into that field?
So it was pretty much organic, I would like to say, because I actually started as a computer science engineer back in the days, and eventually I did my MBA in finance. And as I think I have mentioned also, is that plus 18 plus past years that I have predominantly been in financial institutions and banking domain. And it just organically happens because initially I started working for some clients where the projects were, even though they were technologically in nature, but I ended up in places where they were more to do with this financial fraud related platforms and solutions. And eventually I think last 10 years that I have shifted to the business side of things, where these are certain things that I have kind of I like to say that I have become a subject matter expert in financial fraud prevention and detection. So it is more of a, really an, I would say, organic evolution of my career. But yeah, this is where I am. And I really like what I do. So yeah, and I'm really looking forward to, at least helping your listeners to some extent that, with some knowledge and some kind of education that would definitely help them in their day-to-day life, how to, kind of stay away or protect themselves from the rampant financial fraud that we see these days.
Yeah, it's all about education. I
Oh,
see.
definitely.
Yeah, I see in your bio, you're saying that there's three financial frauds like trends that are happening right now. What are those three
Yeah,
trends?
so definitely, I think we couldn't deny one fact that with the technological advancement that has happened in our recent past, everything is like really at a fingertip, right? So anything that you want to do, you just go online and do things without even giving it a second thought. And most of these cases, I think, anywhere you go, be it, a Uber cab that you're, kind of, booking, or you're going to any of the marketplace to do some purchase, right? Any product, any service, you always get that prompt saying that, do you want to, add your credentials so that, in future, when you come back to this space, you don't have to, keep on thinking or remembering your credentials. And knowing how human being or human mind works, we always prefer convenience, right? So sometimes we don't even give a second thought, and we just go ahead and add our credentials wherever possible. And even though we completely understand that all these marketplaces and these platforms, they definitely have their due diligence, they have heavily invested in data security, but data breaches do happen because the way we are advancing, the same way fraudsters are also advancing. And on those unfortunate cases or scenarios when we see any data breach happening without us knowing all these these credentials and our personal information, they end up in fraudsters hand. And when things like that happen, predominantly what we do see is a fraud called account takeover, where somebody else gets to log in into your system and you're using your credentials, and they perform purchases, they do things that they are assuming third party to understand or think that it is you, but when it's not really you, right? So I would say account takeover is definitely one of the really, I would say, like commonplace fraud trend these days. We have email compromise, where due to social engineering, wherein somebody comes and talks to you about something, and they just get things out of you, information out of you, be it personal information or something, or some cases where just because of your this account takeover, you actually end up losing your data or compromising your email address and things like that, where actually fraudsters send across payment information using your credentials, your mail ID, just making very very minimalistic change to their payment instruction, and your money goes to the fraudster's account rather than the beneficiary or the pay you wanted to pay to. So that's called email compromise. And I would definitely say these days, which is really predominantly happening, is something called pig butchering. So it's also as the name suggests, so like in order for you to slaughter a pig, right, you first make it feed it and kind of fatten it up, and then before they know it, and you are kind of slaughtering them. So the scenario, how it happens is, it is very much happening nowadays, is that one, random phone call, one random, messenger chat, or just a normal message on your phone, where somebody pretend that, oh, hey, how are you doing, it's been a long time, and things like that. And then they pretend that they know you, and eventually they come to know that this is somebody you don't even know. But they have this art of saying, or getting into a conversation with you before you know. I'm not saying that everybody would be falling for it, but then a good number of people do fall for it, because in a sneaky way, they will kind of introduce you to some idea, like you can invest $10 and you can get $50 because out of that. It is happening. It has happened to me like that. They will assure you, and then you'll start with initially those small amounts, like they'll say, just see that because I did it. I came to know about this from such and such friend, and actually I have got so much money because of this. Why don't you do that? And I just tell me, how many people will say no to something when the stakes are much lesser. But before you know it, your $10 becomes 10,000, and 25,000, and suddenly you'll see that money that you sent across, you didn't get back anything on that. The initial few installments that you sent across, you actually get something out of it. That's how they build trust. They say that actually when you're investing, you're getting something out of it. But one fine day, you'll see that when the stakes are pretty high, actually you have lost a humongous amount of money. There are people who actually lose their entire life savings because of this. So it's top of my mind. These are the three trends that are, like, really, there are numerous such scenarios, but these are the three trends that really, really kind of, I would say, like, I would say the top of the list, I would say, as far as the fraud trends are concerned.
So, in your 18 years of experience in the banking and the insurance, what are some different types of frauds that you've seen?
Oh, definitely transaction fraud, where online payments, as I was mentioning, and definitely check fraud. Uh, it is unfortunate, but check fraud is something that happens way more than we would like to, I would say, like, admit or acknowledge. But something where we say this, this happened pretty often, is that these fraudsters, they will come with a check at the end of the day on a Friday maybe, and they will open an account. They will actually existing account, they will just post that check, and they will withdraw some money because of that check that they had deposited. But as we do understand, like these online payments, check payment is something that takes a little longer to get processed, right, behind the scene. And definitely, most of the financial institutions, they have some restrictions to what extent somebody can withdraw money based on a check posted till it has completely cleared the system. But still, that amount, the minimalistic amount that is allowed, they actually, lots of banks, they end up losing that, because by the time the check gets processed, first thing in the Monday morning, that amount that somebody has withdrawn, that is done, and they realize the check has bounced. So this check uh, fraud is definitely another thing. And unlike lots of, I get it that good number of us are pretty tech savvy these days, and we go take the online route, we go for our online banking systems and solutions. But I would say that much more of a volume of these client transactions actually comes to banks, to the check route, because most people are comfortable writing a check, signing a check, depositing a check. So yeah, that's another avenue that I have seen fraud happening quite often. And the last but not the least, I think we see the chargeback. So I think if you talk to 10 people in your known circle, you will say at least 2 to 3 people would be talking about it. Is that some way or the other, their credit card might get compromised. They might have misplaced it, or somehow people who should not be knowing about their credit card details, they have known about it, and those credit cards get used in some online payment without their knowledge. And these fraudster, once they get this service or the benefit or the product, they're using these credit cards to purchase. Once they get it, they kind of go ahead and actually say that actually I didn't get this product, or the product was damaged, even when it was not the case. And they go ahead and they request a chargeback. What happens is that in that case, this particular seller who actually sold this product to this fraudster, they definitely lose that product, and also they end up paying back the amount along with some chargeback fee. So these are like, I would say, really, really commonplace frauds that these days you see. Sometimes you don't even realize, but they are actually happen on a every single day basis.
So, unfortunately, there's a cost to that, the cost of fraud for the vendor, like if you're a business owner.
Definitely.
Yeah, so talk to us about that.
So as I was just now mentioning, right? So there are something that is, tangible, and there's something that is not really tangible, but they are kind of, I would say, if not same, they're even more in value. So, like, in case what will be the reason when you see that fraudsters are targeting some seller, and again that is happening? What happens to these sellers is that along with the financial loss, that is, in terms of the lost goods or the services that they rendered without getting paid for it, they're also giving the money back. They're also being charged the this chargeback fee. And the most important thing is that when these reviews comes up, and nowadays anybody does anything, they go for any product or service, you always have this the availability of putting a comment or a review. Now, some cases these fraudsters do that. Some cases somebody heard about it, and they do that without knowing what is the reality. And these actually impacts if somebody comes to know that oh, such and such seller has sent this many product, and either they're damaged or they never arrived, and things like that becomes a commonplace. They lose their trustworthiness. They lose the kind of the customer confidence without having being actually being the perpetrator, and more like the the victim of this fraud. So that happens quite often. So definitely that caused the sellers or the merchants to a humongous extent. And forget about all these. If we come up one layer above, these banks or the financial institutions that are actually, processing these chargebacks and all, even they tend to, kind of, have second thoughts about such sellers, because they are thinking, okay, so many times chargebacks are happening. What exactly is going on? Actually, are they, no, somebody who they are not saying, or they're actually having some issue with the product they're delivering, or actually they are, getting victimized again and again due to some kind of vulnerability at their end. So either way, it impacts these individuals, or these sellers to a really high extent. And also, if litigation gets involved in this, that kind of causes a lot of trouble and trauma for them, right? So yeah, it is a holistic, like it's not just the monetary part of it. It has a lot of costs. Some are visible, some are invisible. But more than anything, customer confidence, or your image, if you lose that, or the trust of others, that kind of it's something that almost like irreversible, right? They say that you earn trust in drops, but you lose them in buckets, which is very true. And this impacts sellers or merchants in these marketplace cases like this, when happens this kind of fraud when happens.
So, what are some best practices that merchants could that they should know about, like to apply?
So definitely, if somebody, first of all, we always say it is not just for fraud, for anything negative, or, even for, when we are not keeping well, or for illness, we also say prevention is better than cure, right? So once it has happened to you, then addressing it is, yes, you have to do it, but, I would say that's more like a reactive reaction rather than a proactive reaction. So everyone has to be proactive about it. So things definitely, each and every one of us, the way or whatever we are involved in, we should try and see how we can protect ourselves against fraud, right? So the first thing is definitely having the the cutting edge solutions that we have in place. And please do understand, I definitely don't want to take any name here, because I want to keep it as educational as possible, more like on the knowledge front, rather than having specific names dropped here. But definitely there are lots of products and solutions that are available right now that can protect us against this kind of fraud, whether I am just an entrepreneur, or I'm just a very small business owner, or just somebody who is just single-handedly trying to make something out of whatever I'm doing at home, and trying to come up with a business of my own, and I have opened up something in the marketplace. So definitely there are lots of solutions that we can go for. Definitely we need to keep the financial institutions that we hold our accounts with abreast with anything that is happening. Proact, if first time you come across a fraud, or you're a victim of a fraud, please do the due diligence, reach out to your bank, provide them with all the information, so that please do understand, each and every financial institution, they invest heavily on financial fraud detection. So once they get this feedback from you that they have been victimized, definitely they will do their due diligence, and that kind of enhances the fraud detection for you. So there are cases where things like these gets customized, knowing that the kind of victimization is happening again and again to a client of a bank. They kind of do extra layer of due diligence. So these things definitely are something that is doable. And last but not least, I would not say just for the merchant, for anybody in general, when we are subject to fraud, we are vulnerable to fraud. Always, all these banks and financial organizations, they have a lot of layering and mechanisms are in place that ensures that anything that looks something that is not normal between this particular client or the vendor that has happened in past, and we do see there is out of pattern behavior. We actually do receive I think lots of alerts. I think you have seen yourself also, right? If there is a transaction that has happened to your card or to your bank account, and you have set up those alerting mechanism saying that if anything beyond this particular amount is charged to my card, or anything like a chargeback that is happening, if this many time there is a chargeback that has happened, please let me know. So these alerts are actually available. So if you get in touch with your financial institutions, your bank, you can definitely kind of make yourself protect against these scenarios. And only thing that you can do a little bit extra, I would say, is that any kind of notification alert, any third party, I would say, what should I say, anything that actually tells you that something is wrong, please double check on that. Don't blindly just accept something, or think that it's all good, that nothing needs to be looked into. So I think attention to details, along with a cooperation with your financial institutions, and definitely available product utilization would definitely safeguard anybody, be it an individual, be it a business owner or an entrepreneur, or any merchant for that matter.
Where can people get more educated in regards to that?
uh, so definitely, I can tell you, there are uh, internet has a lot of it, but definitely, there we have good information, we have misinformation as well. Definitely, there are fraud specific. First of all, I would say that if an individual who wants to get valuable inputs that might be more aligned to the kind of fraud they might be subject to, I think a very good place to start with is their get in touch with their bank. Every bank has wealth of knowledge and repository. And I can tell you one example, like I do not want to get into the details and don't want to divulge something that I should not, but we have regular education process that kind of loop in our clients. And in case we see that somebody was exposed, or somebody was subject to fraud, we actually have a tailor-made communication that that we send across. Cases like that are there also, where we insist on some best practice by our clients that definitely safeguards them against fraud. So the first point I would say, that is very much readily available, and also you can be rest assured that you are getting the uh, really the information that you need, and there is no fluff to it, and literally how it should be delivered to you. Please get in touch with your bank, share your concern, and you would be more than you'll be surprised that the kind of help and guidance that is available for you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you use AI too in the process
Oh yes.
for fraud
Mm-hmm.
detection. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So when we talk about AI or ML, that is machine learning, so these are technologies that literally kind of, I mean, the expectation is that, it should be enhancement of, what a human can do, right? So most of these, I would not say that, the old ones, but, I would say the top 10 fraud prevention solutions that are available currently, that are really cutting edge, and, they're at par with the industry. Uh, Guidelines, as well as the best practices, and definitely keeping in mind the fraud trends that are currently very much happening everywhere. They are using AI and machine learning. What it does is that you need to understand one thing. You can have a lot of data, but unless the data is utilized in a way that is making things easier for you and more efficient, it's as good as not having the data. So most of the organizations, be it a financial organization or anything, where they are dealing with day-to-day client, even for this matter, all these marketplaces as well, right? So they have lots of data, but AI tools are something, or basically when we utilize these technologies in fraud detection solutions, they what they do actually, they actually analyze the data, they compartmentalize the data, and they actually make the data work for us. I can give you an example. We call, or we use a term called profiling. Profiling is more like, it's like a digital fingerprint or footprint of an individual. So what I mean by that is that, for financial institutions, every client, they have their, very specific, way of doing their business, the very specific way how their transactions are kind of, on a day-to-day basis, they transact. So AI, machine learning, what they do is, they look into the historic data and they literally create a profile for individuals. And by doing that, what they achieve is that, they understand for an individual or for a client, what is, very common, what is almost like a pattern recognition. And this is one way that, anything, I think I was just mentioning this term, anything out of pattern. So AI and machine language, they learn from, your historical data, your historical transactional behavior, and they decide, okay, this is how this particular person or this institution or the organization they behave. When they see something that is, out of pattern for what they have detected till date, that's when, they flag things. And, more often than not, these are actually that, truly fraudulent cases that gets identified as well as, detected, sometimes well in advance even. So yeah, as far as any cutting edge solution that you talk about, AI or machine learning language, machine learning language are really I wouldn't say these are any more a novelty. They are almost necessity nowadays.
As a business implementation manager,
Mhm.
what's your role and what do you do?
Yeah, so this is a pretty broad role, but in a nutshell, that any kind of implementation of these fraud detection platforms for an organization, and any kind of fine tuning or improvisation of the same is something that I deal with, starting from end. So basically, once we know that which solution we're going for, how that would be orchestrated, what all would be considered, what would be the timeline, what all fraud scenarios that we'll be considering, how it would be doing the detection, and post detection, how things happen. These all, kind of, uh, part of my job that, that I gets to dictate or, design or implement.
I think you mentioned a little bit at the beginning. I'm just gonna maybe reiterate. What is BEC and VEC?
Yeah, so I think I was mentioning about email compromise, right? So be it through, data breach, be it through social engineering, as in, somebody, just sweet talking you out of, some personal information. These are the various ways that we can get our email compromised. Now, email can get compromised of an individual. It can get compromised at an organization level. So the end of the day, everything is, I would say like it's basically bifurcation of email compromise. So BEC is basically business email compromise, and VEC is vendor email compromise. So end of the day, basically what we mean by that, if an individual's email gets compromised, and which nowadays, I would say the most commonplace means for communication, be it, our normal day-to-day communication or even transactional communication, when we are actually sending across a transaction instruction or a payment instruction. What fraudsters do is that, when they get hold of somebody's email, specifically, at a higher level, a leadership level, where not a lot of people will be questioning your authority. So what they do is that, they try to be minimally invasive, because nobody wants to, kind of attract the kind of attention that would be kind of make them more vulnerable to for detection. So what they do is they keep everything as is, and they just change the, maybe, a little bit change in their name, or change the pay account number. So everybody else thinks that no, it has come from our CEO, who is telling, we have to send such and such amount to one of our vendor. Please go ahead and process that. Not a lot of people even understand that, maybe, it is coming from your CEO or whatever, at least from the mail ID, but there is actually a slight change, even though the payee name is the same. The name of the basically the account number has actually changed. So this happened. I mean, it is actually an everyday phenomena in the financial organizations level, in any financial organization for that matter. And this is one of those scenarios that each and every financial institution keeps a tab on. So this is one of the most commonplace fraud scenario, but it is mostly, screened transactions for as well. So VEC is basically be it business email compromise or vendor email compromise.
What would be your last words in regards to preventing fraud?
I would say one thing that please do understand. With this advancement of technology, everybody is gaining benefited out of it. So are the fraudsters, and we are in a position right now where gone are those days where you used to keep some information available to our end users or our customers, and other things used to be really need to know basis. But nowadays it is actually not one person's job, it is everybody involved in this case, like financial institutions, the corresponding clients, their corresponding beneficiaries, or the payees that they are involved with, and last but not the least, are our regulatory bodies. We should all be working together. Please don't take anything, for chances. If anything seems too good to be true, most likely they are. So do your due diligence. And any time that you think there is a concern, and something might not feel right, and anything that you think you should inform others or be proactive, be on your guard, please do so. And I think, last but not the least, I know it is not convenient, but I think we should refrain from keeping our credentials readily available on this, anywhere that you get to get an offer, that please save it for your future reference and all. Ideally, unless you have enough confidence that your data would be safe, please refrain from sharing your data, and that will solve a lot of problem. Not 100%, but definitely to a really, really greater extent. And for the rest, all these solutions, your financial institutions, they are always there to protect their clients. So it is, I would say, it's an initiative, not by just one party, it is by everybody.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
Yeah, so I would be sharing my mail ID with you, and yeah, that should be, that can be kept with the this particular recording. And also, I am there in LinkedIn with the same name and surname. So if somebody is really interested in understanding and learning about it, more than happy to assist and help them.
Great. All right. It was nice meeting you,
Same
Sunny.
here, Richard. Same here, Richard.
Oh, yes, it was my pleasure. I hope people learned something.
I
On
hope so too. I really hope so too.
Me too. I hope so too. That's the purpose of the podcast, education. Uh,
Exactly.
on that note, everybody, thank you for listening to the podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you, Richard. Bye bye. Take care.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.